the statement has been made by the governing party that Canadians shouldn't worry. They would, there would never be an imposition on their freedom and what they post on social media. But at the end of the day, if it's not there, it's not there. In other words, if the protection isn't granted, then there's no protection.
The Liberal government is facing accusations it's putting Canadian free speech at risk. The uproar stems from an amendment made to the government's broadcasting bill, that is C-10, and the change would allow the country's broadcasting watchdog to regulate content uploaded to social media. Stephen Guilbeault is the Minister of Canadian Heritage. He's in Montreal and joins us. Minister, thank you very much for taking the time this evening.
Good evening, David.
I know C-10 was brought about to try to get some accountability from the Netflixes of the world, to get them to contribute to Canadian content in the way that traditional broadcasters do. But this amendment was put in, and you stood up when it was introduced and talked about this exclusion that was part of the bill to basically protect user-generated content, to make it so that somebody putting something up on social media would not somehow, even inadvertently, be affected by this. You touted that. And now it is gone from the bill. What changed?
Nothing. Bill C-10, as you said in your introduction, is about ensuring that web giants pay their fair share when it comes to Canadian culture, like traditional Canadian broadcasters do. It's not a bill about content moderation. The CRTC, in its more than 40 years of operation, has never moderated content that we hear on the radio, that we see on TV. The CRTC doesn't say, oh, well, this is good, this is bad. This bill is about ensuring that companies like Netflix, Spotify, but also YouTube, which is the largest distributor of music in Canada, pay their fair share when it comes to Canadian culture. That's all it is about. It has nothing to do with content moderation. And the allegations by the Conservative Party are ludicrous, and they're 100% false. It has nothing to do with reality. It is totally fabricated.
But your original iteration of this bill took the step to actually put an exclusion in there so that people, user-generated content, would not be touched by this bill. And now that exclusion is gone from the current iteration. So I don't understand why it was valuable enough to put it in there before, but not valuable enough to keep it there now.
The bill is about ensuring that these companies pay their fair share. There's nothing about content moderation. User-generated content will not be affected by the amendment. I mean, can you imagine the CRTC?
But then why was it there in the first place? Why was it there in the first place?
Going after people posting pictures or videos of their cats. Like, imagine for 1 second that the CRTC trying to do that. I mean, the member of Parliament who you had on the clip just before I was there talked about the fact that if it's not there, the protection doesn't exist. It's ridiculous. I mean, we have in Canada laws and regulations about freedom of speech. We have the Charter, and in fact, the bill does refer to the Charter. And every bill that is adopted by Parliament must go through an assessment by the Department of Justice, the Ministry of Justice, as to whether or not it conforms with Canadian laws and regulations. So again, this idea that we're going after content that people would post, that's not it. But if YouTube is acting like a broadcaster when it comes to music, then they should be treated like a broadcaster. And what the bill, the bill is not about content moderation. The bill is about ensuring that these platforms that act like broadcasters pay their fair share when it comes to Canadian culture. So it's about spending obligations, spending requirements. It's not about content moderation.
So I'm going to flip the question for a moment here, Minister, because it was important enough to put that exclusion there in the first place. Now it's gone. Why was it important in the first place to put it there?
We're not interested. I mean, it's not what the bill is about.
I mean, I hear you saying you're not interested, but there literally was an exclusion that was put in the original iteration of that bill, the thing that was reviewed, and then it got to committee, and bingo, bango, bongo, the exclusion is gone. So why was it important to put it there in the first place, such that now the committee has removed it?
Well, I mean, the committee decides what they want. The bill, first of all, the committee hasn't even finished doing its work in terms of the amendments. So we don't have a full picture of what the bill will look like when it comes back to the House of Commons for third reading.
Would you like to see the exclusion back in there?
It's not necessary. I mean, so
if it's not necessary, why was it there in the first place?
Well, you know, we've worked on this for many months. We came up with what we thought would be the best possible bill, but bill can always be perfected. They will be amended. And it's not the purpose of the bill. So it's not required to be there because, I mean, this idea that the CRTC would start doing content moderation has no basis in reality. In its 40 years of existence, it has never done that. It doesn't have the power to do that. Bill C-10 doesn't grant the CRTC the power to do that. So this whole conversation makes no sense.
But a former CRTC chair, Peter Menzies, has said, I'll quote here, granting a government agency authority over legal user-generated content doesn't just infringe on free expression, it constitutes a full-blown assault on it. That is from a former CRTC chair.
And I could quote you. I've spoken 2 weeks ago to an ex-CRTC chair who said that social media platforms like YouTube should be subjected to Bill C-10. I could quote you the Coalition for the Diversity of Cultural Expressions, representing 2,000 artists and musicians and technicians in Canada, 2,000 businesses, saying that I mean, the Conservative Party is sacrificing culture on the altar of partisanship. That's what I mean. And even I mean, a Conservative member from Alberta, Kevin Waugh, criticized Bill C-10 for not going far enough because it didn't make sure that companies like YouTube paid their fair share. But you know what's happening? I mean, obviously, the parent company of YouTube, Google, isn't happy about that. And I think initially some Conservative members wanted to support and thought that we should be going after companies like YouTube, and these are powerful companies. I mean, they're among the wealthiest companies in the world, and the Conservative Party is getting cold feet, and they're running for the hills. That's what's happening.
Minister,
because the Bloc is supporting us, the NDP is supporting us, and the Greens are supporting us. There's one party that's running for the hills and siding with web giants, and that's the Conservative Party of Canada.
Minister, we'll have to leave it there. Thank you very much for your time. Appreciate it.
Thank you very much, David.
Hi, I'm Vashi Capellos, host of Power in Politics. See more of our show by subscribing to the CBC News channel or click the link for another video.